Hey guys, it's Mr. Conk. I'm looking at this other video right now. It looks really interesting. I think I want to show you guys. Um, as always, if you like these videos, subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment. I know the last video I made of this got some comments, so I want to know what you guys think. So just, yeah, leave it down in the comments. I'm going to get into it now. Set it up. Okay.
Forget lab leaks, China's trying to smuggle in the dangerous biological agents. U.S. troops are massing in China's backyard, and China is exploding. Then more on this week.
Wonder what he means by massing in China's backyard. Like, I guess Taiwan? I don't know. We'll find out. Let's find out.
It's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Insider.
Or maybe those little islands that are part of Taiwan that are really close to China, to mainland China. Kinmen? Something like that. Anyway. Whoops.
I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you really should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more in a bit. Let's start with the latest update on British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Chagos Islands deal, which would grant sovereignty over the area to pro-CCP Mauritius, 1,300 miles away, even though China is reportedly looking to lease an island from Mauritius near the joint UK-US base on Diego Garcia. It's the US's only base in the Indian Ocean, but it looks like this controversial deal has finally been paused over Trump's opposition. The British foreign minister admitted on Saturday night that because Diego Garcia houses a joint US-British base, the British government needs American cooperation to update certain terms before the deal can actually go through. You know, that point I made months ago. I'd say better late than never, but at this point, they better just sit down and shut up. So is the deal dead? Well, not quite yet. It's because it's been paused since the parliamentary session is over. It might still be reintroduced in the next parliamentary session starting in mid-May. But without Trump on board, it's going to be an uphill battle for the UK. And now on to everyone's favorite ongoing drama in the Middle East, Iran, where the news just keeps on coming. On Monday, the US Navy began blockading Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz and tracking down ships in international waters that had paid a toll to Iran. On Tuesday, the Chinese Communist Party called Trump's actions dangerous and irresponsible, saying that the blockade would only aggravate confrontation, escalate tensions, and undermine the fragile ceasefire. And it appeared that a sanctioned Chinese the blockade would only...
China's the largest buyer of Iranian oil is weighing the fallout of the U.S. naval blockade of Iran's port and ships. When was it? April 14th. Could Beijing be drawn into the conflict? No, they're not going to... No. They're not. They're not going to fucking do anything. But I don't know, like, where China's going to be getting their... Like, I know they buy a lot of oil. I guess Russia is their next option. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of that. I honestly, I just think they have Russia now. Venezuela's gone. Iran is in the middle of a conflict, so they can't really do trade with that naval blockade. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Aggravate confrontation, escalate tensions, and undermine the fragile ceasefire. And it appeared that a sanctioned Chinese-owned oil tanker, the Rich Starry, was going to make it through the U.S. blockade, until Wednesday when it turned around, reportedly because U.S. forces told it to. Now that we all know the importance of trade routes, I think we owe George Lucas an apology.
They're still trying to get oil from them.
Trump decided it would be a good idea to make
buy
the
your oil
entire
from America.
already volatile situation way more interesting by putting out this Truth Social post. China is very happy that I am permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. I am doing it for them. Also,
I saw that. So I'm a little confused as to...
Now that we all know the importance of trade routes, I think we owe George Lucas an apology. Also on Wednesday, Trump decided it would be a good idea to make the entire already volatile situation way more interesting by putting out this Truth Social post. China is very happy that I am permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. I am doing it.
This is what confuses me, because he said this, but there's still April 15th. 46. So that, okay.
For them. Also, the world.
This
The
happened
situation
after.
will never happen again. They've agreed not to send weapons to Iran. President Xi will give me a big fat hug when I get there in a few weeks. Which confused everyone, including news outlets, some of which thought the U.S. blockade had ended. It hasn't. Although I'm guessing the person most confused was Xi Jinping. On Thursday, Chinese top diplomat Wang Yi reportedly pressed Iran to reopen the strait while reaffirming Iran's sovereignty. Now, that's what I call aggressive negotiations. And now it's Friday, and I don't know what happens next, but I'll be sure to tell you next week. The Trump administration is also taking aim at banks handling Iranian money. The Treasury Department says they have evidence these banks allowed the Iranian regime to funnel illegal money through them. Some of these banks are in Gulf countries like the UAE or Oman, which, given that Iran fired drones and missiles at them, are likely to comply with the U.S. demands. But other banks are in Hong Kong and mainland China. An anonymous official at the Treasury Department reportedly says this is the first step to adding secondary sanctions on these banks if they don't comply with U.S. demands. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned countries not to get involved with the Iranian regime financially.
Other thing that we have done is we have told countries that if you are buying Iranian oil, that if Iranian money is sitting in your banks, we are now willing to apply secondary sanctions, which is a very stern measure, and the Iranians should know that this is going to be the financial equivalent of what we saw in the kinetic activities.
So we're going to blow up the money of all their leaders in the middle of the night? Man, economics is way more violent than I realized. So will this end up affecting China? Well, according to Trump, Xi Jinping promised not to send weapons to Iran. But I don't remember anyone making any promises about money, so I guess we'll see. While the CCP struggles on how to handle its relationship with Iran, it doesn't have nearly as much to worry about elsewhere, because some of America's allies are continuing to get closer to China. For example, Canada and China held talks this week and agreed to expand trade and financial engagement, including strengthening our economic relationship. Wow. Given the state of China's economy, this is like going rock climbing in the state of China's engagement, including strengthening.
This morning, the Government People Bank of China, Government McClam, we've launched Canada-China Financial Group, Foreign Renewal Financial Sector Policy Dialogues, two countries. Okay.
Our economic relationship.
Yeah.
Wow. Given the state of
That's
China's
Canada
economy,
for you.
this is like going rock climbing and connecting
Whoa,
yourself
Canada.
to a 200-pound
Whoa,
lead
yeah.
weight. I'm sure you'll climb all the way to the top. All of this obviously is building on Prime Minister Mark Carney's Beijing trip earlier this year, when he said Canada aims to be a part of a new world order, seemingly one led by the CCP, which, given how Carney is just ceding to them, might as well stand for
New
the
World
Tucky
Order.
Canada
Oh,
Party.
man. He doesn't know what he's fucking talking about.
Anymore. This week, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez,
I think he was
who has made
paid to
clear
say
his
that.
disdain for the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, returned to China to seek deeper ties. Look,
Canada has no fucking say in who's the world leader, and we're puny. Our military is. I was in the military too, so it's very underfunded. It's a pretty big joke. I'm not gonna lie. Not good.
Being a fan.
And all I can say is that if we didn't have the states next to us protecting us, Canada would not be Canada anymore. And even with the states protecting us, it's slowly changing. So.
Of this war, but do you think China is the nation opposed to needless wars? This is like a vegetarian breaking up with her boyfriend for eating a hamburger, and her next relationship is with Hannibal Lecter. Sanchez has been a thorn in Trump's side for quite some time now. Besides opposing his policies towards the Middle East, Sanchez also refuses to increase Spain's NATO defense contributions to 5%, the only NATO country to do so. So, is he really anti-war, or is he just cheap? Spain is also closely cooperating with China in the EV sector, despite EU tariffs on Chinese EVs. So cheap, definitely cheap. And on this trip, Sanchez encouraged
It'll be cheap
the
and they'll
CCP to
destroy
play a more
businesses
active
here. They'll
role
eat
on the global stage,
Canadian businesses,
specifically saying that
like all
China
businesses
can
alive.
do
They'll just
more.
outproduce,
For example,
steal the
by
tech.
demanding that
And
international law be respected and that the conflicts in Lebanon, Iran, Gaza, and the West Bank and Ukraine cease. Because don't you know, the Chinese Communist Party has always safeguarded international law. So as Canada and Spain get closer to China, the U.S. is seeking some new friends, which is tough because you know how hard it is making friends in your 30s. Imagine making new friends when you're 250. U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced a major defense partnership with Indonesia. This includes military modernization as well as joint training exercises, military cooperation, and education. But one thing it doesn't include is blanket flyover permission for U.S. military flights. So they're friends, just not with those benefits. This is because earlier in April, Indonesia's foreign ministry reportedly sent a letter warning that giving the U.S. overflight permission would risk entangling them in South China Sea conflicts, aka angering China. The deal still has to make its way through the Indonesian government after further review, so it's not a done deal yet, but it's noteworthy that Indonesia is on one side of the Strait of Malacca, which the CCP heavily relies on for trade. So if something bad happens in the South China Sea, which Indonesia and China have overlapping claims over, well, looks like Indonesia and the U.S. might be able to muster up some leverage. And China might get harassed in other waters, which isn't karma. Name 90 times China's ever done something like that. I'll wait. Speaking of South China Sea conflicts, the U.S. and its allies will deploy over 17,000 troops to participate.
isn't China, like, they're making man-made islands in the South China Sea, right? And then, according to international law, forget what it was like 5 or 10 nautical miles off the coast of those man-made islands is now part of China. So, I don't know.
In the biggest ever joint drills in the Philippines.
Oh.
Besides American and Philippine forces, other military personnel participating include Australia, France, Canada, New Zealand, and Japan. Yes, Canada. Guess that New World Order will have to wait a little longer, hopefully forever. The Balikatan exercises start on April 20th and will run through May 8th with 10,000 U.S. troops taking part, despite everything going on in the Middle East. This is obviously to deter China while increasing combat readiness and cooperation among key U.S. allies. The drill's organizers said the training will include land, air, sea, space, and cyber capabilities, all of which should help the Philippines become more experienced and capable in light of China's doing absolutely nothing at all in the region. A biology researcher at Indiana University, or IU, has pled guilty to smuggling E. coli DNA from China concealed in a clothing.
April 10th, 2026. I always check the dates on these headlines, too, just to make sure that they're accurate or not. $4 months in prison to $500 on 1 year of supervised. E. coli DNA from China.
It's ridiculous. If he wanted E. coli in the U.S., he could have just eaten it at Chipotle.
Why? Guess maybe just
32-year-old Yo
they lack the equipment to study it in China, so they bring it here.
And fined $500 with 1 year of supervised release. And that clothing shipment, well, he apparently smuggled in the E. coli DNA in women's underwear. Where's a guy like that getting women's underwear, am I right? And just for good measure, Xiang also lied about his CCP membership when immigration authorities questioned him. In any case, Xiang wasn't the first such case and almost certainly won't be the last. But on the bright side, this is a good reminder as any to wash your underwear. Don't be nasty. And finally, earlier this week, a massive fire broke out at a parking garage
that is nasty,
in
bringing
belonging
that.
to Chinese electric
If they had
vehicle
ill
company
intent with that
BYD.
E.
Seriously,
coli.
how did that fire get that big? The facility was used to store test or scrapped vehicles. No casualties were reported, but the company's shares traded in Hong Kong dropped by 0.91%, which isn't all that much, all things considered. Meanwhile, elsewhere in China, hundreds of parked electric bicycles caught fire. Okay, there isn't really a bright side to that, except for the brightness coming from the light of the flames. There's speculation that this might be from a local heat wave, but in any case, it's not exactly inspiring confidence in Chinese transportation. And did you know that every time you go online, everything you do is potentially compromised? That's why the people at Surfshark created a VPN that keeps your internet activity private and secure. You may have noticed that phishing scams are on the rise. Scammers send 3.4 billion phishing attacks every single day, trying to convince you to sign in somewhere and enter your password. A lot of these emails look legit. That's why Surfshark created the email scam checker. With one click, you can check to see if an email is probably a phishing attack. This could help you save yourself from having your identity and your hard-earned money stolen by scammers. You'll also get the web content.
Find like the more technology spreads throughout the world, distributes itself, more crime happens, more cybercrime. It's common sense.
Blocker, which allows you to block adult sites, drugs, gambling, and other harmful content on every device in your household. It lets you block the bad stuff without actually having to monitor what your family members are browsing. I've been using Surfshark for a long time, and it just keeps getting better. A lot of other VPNs just hide your internet activity. Surfshark does that too, and very well. And it also goes the extra mile with add-ons that keep you and your family safe from all the malicious things that come through the internet. Plus, Surfshark has servers you can connect to in more than 100 countries, more than any other VPN. So stay safe and get Surfshark. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to get up to 4 months extra. The link is in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.
Okay, well, that's basically all I wanted to show you guys. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Please leave it in the comments. Also, if you like the video, drop a like, subscribe. It helps a ton, helps me keep making these. I know some people are going to be like, no, I don't want him to keep making those. I don't want this information to spread, but I'm afraid it's not up to them. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next.